Oh, hey, 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 witches, we are back. Do you love the Songs Are Spells podcast, presented by me, Karlyn King? Hearing about how music industry guests level up their lives using a little bit of magic? Do you want to do the same using the easy spiritual tips discussed with our amazing guests like Aurora, Idols, and OG Sex Pistol Glenn Matlock? Well, now is the time. I've personally manifested many things like relationships, tuition fees, and even specific podcast guests. So think of me as your personal guide for your spiritual glow up. What are you waiting for? As Dave Grohl, Billie Eilish, and even Ariana Grande know, yep, they practice this. A weekly bit of witchery does not take long. Join me today on our Patreon community. You can access it via the link in the show notes, or on our Instagram bio at Songs Are Spells Podcast, or on our TikTok at Songs Are Spells. I can't wait to meet you. Hello and welcome to Season 3, Episode 1, and what a joy to be joined by someone I've admired for a long time, Isobel Campbell. So you might remember Isobel from Belle and Sebastian. She joined Belle and Sebastian when she was 18 years old, and she then went on to have a lot of success as a solo artist and collaborator. And she's made some of my favourite albums ever with the late, great Mark Lanegan. We talk about everything on this episode, from body image, should you have an arse like Kim Kardashian, going solo, bravery, and listening to your intuition. So let's dive in.
This is Isobel Campbell, and you're listening to the Songs Are Spells podcast.
Thank you so much for joining us on Season 3, Episode 1, on the full moon.
Woo! Yay!
Happy
Thank
that
you.
you're here. It's funny because we've met briefly at shows and things like that, and it was kind of recently through our mutual friend Bill Wells that we really got to chat, and I do feel quite a strong connection with you already.
I felt that when we met, I don't remember the time at the Grand Ole Opry. I think I was probably because we'd been playing, I think I was probably Tune to the Moon or something. But when we met in Govan, sunny Govan, and we got the tube back with Bill to George Crossing. Yeah, no, I felt I was like, oh, do you want to saying, do you want to go for dinner or something? Yeah, no, I felt that too, definitely.
Oh, that's so great. And I know that you are quite spiritual, and that you've mentioned in interviews before things like working with the eclipse energy and things like that. So I guess a really good first question would be, are songs spells?
I think they can be, potentially. Not every song, obviously. But for me, they are, because I'm always the good ones, at least anyway, because I'm channeling, and often the good ones, I feel like they come from somewhere else, really. And I just have to just kind of come through me. So for me, they are. But I mean, there's a lot of dud songs out there, so obviously not all songs. And some of those dud songs are mine, by the way. So.
Who really inspired you to start writing songs?
No one really. I remember the makings of a loner. Even at that age, I used to be like, oh, please God, please can they all just leave the house? Please can they all just go out? And when mom and everyone would go out, I would just hang out in the house, just write, singing my heart out, and just, was always writing poetry when I was really young. And then it just kind of morphed into and it's more kind of I remember Jim McCulloch in the from the Soup Dragons and Green Peppers and everything. He always would say to me that it's a compulsion more than anything else. And I would, whenever Jim would say that, I think, oh yeah, he gets me. It's just something that if even if I had to pay people to listen to my songs, I'd still be doing it. Lyrics on napkins, or coasters, or just on toilet paper, or whatever. That's just me, and it's just what I do. And I'm always blown away by a good line in a song or something elegant. Oh my God, that's, how did they do that? Yeah, I just adore it. So, but it was just something that happened very naturally, and I was really, really, really not good at it to begin with, probably, and then when we were in the band, like B&S, and obviously Stuart, such a great writer, and obviously my writing was nowhere near that level of sophistication back in my early 20s, but I just respect it. I just love it. I think it's very magical thing, and I remember watching a documentary that I actually never got to the end of it, but it was Alistair Gray talking about painting and saying that when he's painting, how time is just kind of suspended. And it's kind of like with music and writing, I remember when I heard him say that, I was thinking, wow, that's a bit, I know what that feels like. So that, yeah, it's just a beautiful thing. It's in this day and age when so much is like monetized and so kind of clinical, and oh yeah, let's all get an arse like Kim Kardashian or those like big trout lips or whatever. We the people, we're choosing to fuck ourselves with some of the choices we're making at the minute.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. It's like, nah, we can do better. And it's like all the fake world, reject, don't do it. Do the hearty, tasty stuff. That's what I say. But
yeah it's interesting because what you're saying there as well, I guess you're kind of touching on things like the pressure to look a certain way and things like body image, and that is something that I really struggle with.
Do you?
Yeah, I really do. And yeah, people are sometimes surprised.
You're gorgeous. I just had to look at the video and say, what are you struggling with? Tell me what you're struggling with.
I think it's a product of what you've literally just said, the fake lies I've been fed like my whole life. And it does get to me sometimes. And then I'm like, should I have a Kim Kardashian artist? Should I get this? Should I get that? And then I'm like, come on.
It's them, but like when you say you struggle with, but is it just like a sort of pressure that you feel, or like?
Yeah. I think we're constantly being told that we're not good enough. And I think that's something that why I really connect with kind of magic and witchy spirituality, is because that says that whatever you are is enough, and it's beautiful, and the feminine and the masculine is all beautiful in whatever form it is.
Perfectly imperfect. This whole thing about not enoughness is a lie. It's a complete lie. It's advertising. It's people that they want your money, by the way. They want your money. It's just not, it's an untruth, but it is seductive, it's confusing, and I also think that men are as led astray and confused by a lot of it, like, because I think sometimes men are kind of like, oh, should I be wanting that? Is that what I should be wanting in a woman? And I'm just like, we the people, we are choosing, if that's the choice, if that is, you're choosing to mess with yourself. It's just such a vacuous, like, even my friend, I think he was out in Edinburgh, like, oh, I hate this fake world. Divert your attention, focus on, well, what's actually working for you. It really is bonkers, and I really wouldn't, but yeah, I'm sorry that I'm sure I think I've fallen prey to it sometimes. I think we all can, but I think there's a point we have to just go, okay, thanks, but no thanks. I mean, I've had friends cry like, oh, he doesn't like me because of my breasts, and I'm like, nah, it's nothing to do with your breasts. Like, what are you talking about? Like, it's just, yeah, no. We'll get through it, but it's a minefield, really, at the moment.
Like you said, being grateful for everything that you are and you have, and that completely changes your vibe and your
vibration.
I'm a big believer in, so every day I do like 10 things I'm grateful for.
Oh.
And that keeps my vibration really high, and then I attract more good stuff.
Yeah, you do have a very high vibration. That's you just got to, it's perspective, isn't it?
Yeah,
and
sure.
Some people, nothing would ever sort of be enough but it's honestly the fast track to contentment is appreciation.
Yeah.
And yeah, I would say so. I agree with you.
Amen.
Yeah.
And you've had quite such an interesting musical journey. I know you joined Belle and Sebastian when you were 18, right?
Yes.
Wow. And it just exploded. It was just everywhere and everyone knew who you were. And yeah, and then one day you were like, no, not for me.
Well, it was 2 years. I was kind of like, oh, I don't know. This is not feeling. There was so many of us because there was 8 of us, as people have told me. Some people say that I'm like a quite a strong character. I don't particularly think so. Maybe I just like know what I like and I like what I know. But yeah, no, we were very. But it was the power of the songs. Stuart had been working on that for a while before we all sort of fell in with him and met him. But like it was like a sort of 1980s like Hollywood movie. It really was. Like we all kind of met him, and then and then all of a sudden we're playing the Union Chapel in London and getting standing ovations. I remember Stuart David, the bass player, just saying, this is like a film.
Yeah.
And like Jarvis Cocker was coming to see us. But it was almost like, but I am like a totally, like most of the time, unless I'm like resistant, which is not pretty when I'm being resistant, but person, and just kind of, it just felt like it was meant to be, and everything kind of lined up. And then I think there was a thing of some of the parts. I wish all bands could have that kind of start for people, because it was really, really magical.
So you said that over time you had realized, was it a gut feeling? Like this is not what?
Because there was 8 of us, things were getting like ruled by committee, and we would have meetings that would last from like 10 in the morning till 6 o'clock at night.
Wow.
And we would, but nothing would be agreed upon. So it was a bit like Monty Python, it was a bit like, it was a bit like confusing. And it was cool and everything. But I just knew that I was liking it to like sort of a sport team, like a football team or something like that. Like, or you couldn't, I knew that, and I was really into it, but then I wanted to do my own stuff, and I wanted to explore my own writing, even if it wasn't as commercially, I just wanted to explore like my own voice. And then it just seemed to be a point where it was like, okay, well, I need to decide, stick with this or just jump off a cliff, basically. But I'm one of these weirdos that like actually I can't help but follow my heart. So I had to just follow my heart, and it was like jumping off a cliff. And because a lot of people at the time were like, why are you doing that? Like, you've got a good thing going there. You shouldn't leave. But I knew that it was inauthentic for me to stay. So
Wow.
so I did. I just jumped off the cliff, and it worked out in its own way.
Yeah. So looking back now, are you so glad I did that?
Oh, it's not even so glad I did that. Like, it was a no-brainer. Like, there was no choice, because I knew that as much as I loved everyone and I loved it, and part of me did want to stay, I knew that I had to leave. We were always hashing things out or realizing, and I just knew that I had to, even though it was like less successful or whatever, I just wanted to follow my writing and just explore that. And also because when I met Stuart when I was like 17, that's quite young. And even though like, not to be ungrateful, because it was like the most wonderful apprenticeship, I thought. Like, I couldn't have had a better start, been in greater company, but I just needed to, especially as a woman, because there was the 2 females in the band, but quite a fan of like having my say and everything, and
Mm-hmm.
so just had to kind of, sometimes in life we just have to fight for what it, fight for what we need, sort of thing. Like, and just fight to be heard, fight for, it's all a bit of a fight sometimes.
Yeah, I think so. And so you left and you went on and did several solo albums, and then the Mark Lanegan project.
Yeah,
Mark,
I did solo records. I did the record with Bill. I loved working with Bill, and Bill helped me with some of my, like, Amarino. He was like massive part of, and yeah, he's always like, even to this day, if I'm like deciding on mixes or confused about something, he's like one of my go-to people. Like, I'm confused. Can you help me? And he's always like, oh, no bother. So
that's great. Yeah. So when you connected to Mark, I know that you thought that it probably wouldn't happen, and then it did, and you must have just been ecstatic.
well, I think that's like my default. Like, even anything that I want a lot, I think it's my innate Scottish, the whole sort of underdog thing. Well, I really, really want this, but obviously it's not going to happen. I just kind of write it off before it even. But the thing is that I didn't really account for, he was a bit like that too. So I think he like probably got me. So it did happen.
Amazing. And I heard that, so he called you on the phone and just sung the track down the phone, and you were like, oh my God.
I was in my flat at the time in Broomhill, and it's written. It was Why Does My Head Hurt So? I'd written like the middle eight, like always the same playground, swinging around and around. I think I was thinking about Mo Tucker. I'm always thinking about Lou Reed and the Velvet Underground because they're one of my ultimates. But yeah, I just wrote the middle eight, and I'm really pleased with this middle eight. I can't think of anything else. I was just completely stuck. And so I sent Mark's press officer the CD and like a Man Ray postcard, and thinking that, I mean, I would write to lots of people, like, never hear back. I was always writing to people. I wrote to Mark, then just forgot about it. Then about 6 months later, my manager at the time was like, oh, Mark wants to call you. Because I think he'd been managing Martina Topley Bird as well.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so I think she had also collaborated with Lanegan. And so for some reason, he was just like, Lanegan wants to call you. And I was like, oh, great. And yeah, he did. He called me and he was like, are you okay with the word baby? And I was like, yeah. And then I'm going to sing it. So then he sang it over the phone. And I remember it's like it's like Scotland Yard telephone, like in 40s black, like dial telephone. And he was singing it down that to me. And I just thought, also felt like a bit like a movie as well. I just thought, what's actually happening? This is funny. But yeah, so, and I think that's the only time he's sung over the phone to me. So
Yeah.
first and last.
Wow, because I mean, he is by far my favorite like male rock vocalist. When he sings, it is just like something else. I did meet him a couple of times, and even when he speaks, it's really like sort of low growl.
I know.
I was just
Well,
fascinated by him.
like a lot of, like, I remember, I think when the first record I gave it to Dave McGowan and he played it to his girlfriend and she was like, oh, I want to do a record with him. Like, I think ladies appreciate the frequency of his voice. It's
Definitely.
wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah. I still really can't believe he's not here. Like, recently I've been like re-listening to some of the stuff we've done together, and I'm just like scratching my head, like, what do you mean he's not here? But so that was the first time he phoned me up, and then that sort of got the ball rolling. But I think the thing about me thinking that it wasn't going to happen, I've learned about myself since, consequently. I I always think something that I want to happen will never happen. It's very, I have this like how Gelman Giant Sand, he says, it's like trick the universe into reverse psychology. So he says there's this thing like, so pretend you don't want something to the universe, and then it will actually give you it. But I
Wow.
really, I've not tried that one, but I'm just kind of grateful for the stuff that goes right when it goes right.
Yeah,
So.
because every single record's Mark is just an absolute masterpiece. And I just remember seeing you live and just being like, wow. I mean, it was so magical.
I think one of my favorite things to do was be on stage singing with him, and I'm
Yes.
like, oh, that's never ever gonna happen, like ever again. It's quite gutted, but not that I'm just gutted because it's
Yeah.
my friend, obviously. But yeah, no, he's classic, irreplaceable voice, really. So
Totally. It's such a huge loss. And yeah, I'm so sorry that this has happened.
yeah, when I got the call in February, it's definitely been changed everything quite significantly. I think one of the lovely things is that so many people like clearly think so highly of him. It was lovely when everyone was coming out saying remembering, and actually one of my close friends in East Sussex also collaborated with Mark on Gargoyle. So I'm going to listen to a test pressing tomorrow morning.
Oh, amazing.
At Rob owns a coffee shop on the platform. So because I don't have a record player here yet, so I'm going to go, and so we get together sometimes and we remember stuff. So it's quite nice.
Great.
Yeah, to have that support.
He's irreplaceable, absolutely. And there was such a synchronicity between you, I think.
It's just very natural.
Yeah.
I don't even, yeah, it's hard for me to even, there's just yeah, definitely was, definitely.
And yeah, when you say that it's changed things, has it changed your outlook on things or how you're going to move forward now?
Well, part of me, like I did go into Rob's coffee shop. Like Rob's project is called The Humanist, by the way. Like I think Rob did stuff with which is a great name. I think he did stuff with the singer from Depeche Mode.
Okay.
So, but and Rob's finishing off his record at the moment as well. But yeah, it's definitely thrown a lot up for me because I think I was going to London the other day and I went in because Rob always gives me a coffee before I get on the train, and I was just like, everything's over. Everything's done. Everything's over. And he said, I know that's not so not so magical, is it? But it's quite doomsday. I just went, and he said, "Stop." He's like, "You're brilliant." Stop. Blah, blah. Anyway, so he gave me a sort of talking to. But yeah, it's just kind of we'll see. But it's just I think it's just loss, isn't it? So it's but so happy that we had that time together, and just so like yeah, part of me as well is like, how do these records even exist? I mean, I know that I worked incredibly hard on them, and I was completely devoted to the. I mean, I'm always devoted to the work, but so much like I would have done anything for that work. But it all, perfectly imperfect. So and it really is and I think we all have a time, and that's the way it is, and it's just life. So.
Do you have any sort of like well-being? I mean, I call well-being self-care witchcraft. It's all the same for me. It's all the same aim, really. Do you have any practices that you have, like daily rituals to just look after yourself?
I do. I mean, that's like good for a slow person like me to exercise because otherwise I can get very stuck in my head, and especially with like being in studios and in front of screens. So it's good for me. I'm always walking. I walk
Mm-hmm.
miles and miles and miles, easy. I left my car in the States, so I don't have a car here, so I'm always walking. I'm like, I say I'm like the Forrest Gump of walking, but I just get walking. But I walk, I do yoga a lot. I'm similar to you. I see it all as this it's all kind of like self-soothing, and it's all I meditate a lot, friends, good company.
We interrupt this broadcast for this week's spellcast. This is your astrology for the week ahead. So today, August 11th, the full moon in Aquarius might feel like a punch to the gut. Remember, full moons highlight what we need to see, work through and move on from, which is really fitting given the stuff that we're talking about here with Isobel. This full moon is the last supermoon of the year, meaning that it's super close to the earth, so we can see its light shining brightly. So don't be surprised if you are emotional, you might be angry. Let it come to the surface, say what am I feeling and why, and work through it, and don't push yourself too hard. Now back to my conversation with Isobel. Do you use any specific apps for meditation?
It's funny, like somebody was telling me the other week, they're like, I use Calm app, whatever.
Yeah.
I don't use any apps. Like I have them. So I did, like when I was in California, I did quite a lot of breath work. So I have like audio CDs. Like there's a lot of astrologers that I like. I love Kaipatra. He has a weekly thing. Pam Gregory, she's amazing.
Yeah.
Another astrologer. Do you know her?
Yeah, her YouTube channel is amazing.
She's just a wonderful lady. And then there's another astrologer, Heather Ensworth, that I kind of found out about through watching Pam Gregory. And then Rory Duff, a geologist. Do you know that? I live by the sea. So I think the sea is nature's Valium, to be honest. Just go out there and the fresh air and nature. What about you?
Yeah, I did get the Calm app because it's so convenient. It's literally, you can just press it and there's like a 10-minute daily meditation. So it's super convenient. But what I found is that it's a little bit light touch. So I would rather do something a bit more like tailored towards what I need that day. And that's a big thing for me, is just listening to how I feel on the day. What is it that I need? What is out today? What is on my mind? What am I battling with on that day?
Yeah, because different stuff comes up constantly. We're all quite complex. That's such a good approach. But I mean, I've trained in Reiki. Oh, do I need to do breath work today, or do I need to go and jump around? And or I'm always dancing about. Like there's it's all like, it's so pretty like beneficial, but the breathing is really good, especially just breath work. And since I've been down here, that it's a thing called body talk.
Oh, wow.
And it's like, so like with therapy, like sometimes, what we can say, we're kind of be tricking ourselves, but what they do is they tap into the body. I found that really like wonderful.
That's great. So the body is like messenger, isn't it?
Oh yeah, I think so. What do you think?
Absolutely. Yeah. Even to the extent where I've seen people who are quite nasty and bitter and angry and who've never went and dealt with their stuff in some way, and it physically manifests as things like inflammation, acid reflux, redness. Yeah, I completely believe that. The body keeps the score. I think that's the book about it. Body keeps the score.
Yes.
And I believe you can store trauma in different areas.
Because the whole thing, like some people like with therapy, and it's just like talking problems over and over. Sometimes what we talk about and what we pay attention to can be like an affirmation. I was like, I don't know about if I should continue with therapy or whatever. And so the soul wants to go forward. So I like to think of it that way. I think there's a time for everything. But yeah, body does keep the score big time.
divine timing. So would you identify as a witch then?
No, because I mean, like, I think I would have to be. That's like Stevie Nicks, isn't it? Or like, I mean, as wonderful as and amazing as she is, but I well, probably. I mean, probably people. There's probably certain kind of very logical, rational, trust the science type people that would be like, oh my God, this person is bonkers. Not bonkers, so not bonkers. But if people want to believe that about me, they're welcome to. I'm just very intuitive. Like, if something, how does something sit with me? Like, follow my heart. It's, follow what feels like. I do what does it feel good? Do that. If
Yeah.
it doesn't, don't do it. It can actually boil down to it's quite simple really. But even Rory Duff, like on his work, we're in a time where things are shifting quite radically. So also shifting our perspective and how we think about things. It's not there's sometimes a lot more to something than what first appears. So witch, does that make me a witch? I probably not. Like, more in tune.
Mm-hmm.
I like to tune in to people and to vibrate. I think everything, and I find this fascinating as a musician. Everything is vibration.
Mm-hmm.
So as a musician, I'm like, how amazing, because
Yeah.
sound waves, everything is a vibration. So I'm like, that gets me going.
Completely. I've got so into this lately. So I did some reading on, there's a book called The Happy Home. It's all about Feng Shui. And Feng Shui believes, it's kind of Shinto beliefs, that everything, whether it's an object, a sound, a person, everything has a resonance or a vibration. And in the Patreon community, I was talking about how I'd went to clear the love corner of my home.
Yes.
So you sort of map your house out with a map, and the southwest is love. And I went to clear it, and it was covered in old magazines, dusty records. There was a couple of dead flies.
Nice.
Well, I wonder why I've been single for 3 years. So.
I don't know. Scotland can be tricky. I was single for a million years in Scotland. I feel like that Presbyterian angst. Well, who knows? Maybe not. But
The biggest change has to be within, like you said, right? We are vibrational. What are my blocks? What's stopping me?
happiness is an inside job, and
Absolutely.
as within, so without. So, but I think the problem for a lot of people now is that a lot of people are just instant gratification. I think a lot of us have cotton on to these ideas, but yeah, it just so makes sense to me anyway.
Yeah, completely. So what is coming next for you? What can we expect next?
I have a new album, and which I'm finishing in the next couple of months. Rob and I, like Humanist, we worked on the song on his record. Not sure when that's coming out. I'm sure a lot more, but that's kind of like enough at the moment. My records, and I think like the last record, it took me a while to find my feet away from the duo records.
Mm-hmm.
So, but now I kind of got good with it and got comfortable with it. So I'm happy to do that now. And I feel like there's a lot of things that enjoying my perspective is coming out in the songs, which I know it's not an entirely unique perspective, but a lot of people aren't really writing songs about what I'm writing songs about.
What are these kind of topics we can expect?
Well, kind of a lot what we've been talking about. So it's deep. And that will be on Cooking Vinyl. And then I think, what else? I don't know. Like, I think think the Mary Chain have a live record coming out that I'm on.
Is there a title for the album yet?
I think I want to call it Bow to Love.
Love it.
Was in with meeting Rob in Camden, and he was like, is there a title? And I was like, I just kind of went too bashful, but then I kind of got home and I was like, okay, I can tell him now. So
To love. Oh, that's giving me chills.
yeah, one of my best friends down here, and we're always talking, and oh my god, like when the world ends, her and I will just be going blah 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 blah, like just talking. But we always a breathwork teacher I had, like Dharma Devi, she and this, people would always say that love brings up everything aside itself, its purpose to heal and release. And like, oh my god, like these days it just seems more and more on the money. If something comes up, it's like, oh that will be that, even if it's something like really really hard and really difficult, it's like, oh, that will be love again. Like, it's quite, we all get kind of worked over, and especially these last 2 years. So sometimes when the gnarly stuff comes up, it's actually a gift, because it's like, oh, okay, thank you, okay, I'll deal with this now. But it's pretty tough, so it's kind of like bow to love.
Wow, I absolutely love that.
We get our arses whipped our whole life.
Well, you're saying
learn
that
to enjoy it.
exactly. So, like an evolved person will see the lesson in all these things, and
You go, thank you, old me. And still me a lot would just like curl up in a ball and say, please go away, everyone, and don't darken my door ever again. But it's actually to rise to the challenge. Okay, I'm going to meet this head on. And it's actually surprising. Like the breathwork teacher, like Dana, Clarity Breathwork, that was her and Ashana, they do amazing workshops and do a lot of stuff online as well. She would say, embrace everything. And I'd be like, no, but I don't want to. But it's quite surprising. Like, I kind of was brave there, and actually everything turned out okay.
Yeah, there was something in it for me to learn. Wow.
Yes.
Incredible.
Yeah.
You find that a lot of people come to you for advice? Yeah, I get that a lot as well.
I think it's because I do. Like, I could easily, like, I mean, I don't charge, and nor would I want to. Like I think, like, I was thinking about it yesterday for some reason. I think it's also a gift of being here. It's like I'm willing to like get down and dirty with people. Like, okay, bring me your stuff. Okay, let's do this. And it's we're all learning, and we're all flawed. Nobody's like, trying to make themselves out to be, it's great. Like we're all helping each other, which is as it should be. We don't need these authority, like, oh, do this, do that, like, like we know, like, a lot of the time within ourselves, like you say, within we but yes, I do. I have a lot of I seem to be, you're probably similar, like I seem to have a lot of people that will just tell me their life stories, and but I'm happy to oblige.
Yeah, it is funny though, and you'll be in some random situation like getting on a train or buying a coffee or something, and someone will just start telling you their absolute life story, and you're like, whoa.
I know. So like, I think my granny was like that too. So like, I think like a lot for me, like my end game is probably just to like turn into Doris, like, because she was just like a character, did her own thing. And yes, it's funny how, but we're all kind of sharing. And then sometimes when like, if there's something I need to hear, like that day when I was like, everything is over, like I was morose, I was like, my career is over, everything is over, goodbye. I'm an old lady now. Goodbye. And he was just like, you're brilliant. Shut up. Get on the train. I was like, okay.
This guy sounds in tune.
Rob is special, and he's a very, very, very pleased that I've met him down here. Yeah. And it's funny because we met each other through Lanegan, but never with Lanegan. But we like to think that he would be quite pleased that we both have each other now. When we were recording the other day, we're like, oh, he'd like this, that we're buddies, you know? In fact, he gave me a book. Someone came in his coffee shop, an American lady, and gave him a little book on intuition. Oh, wow. And then he said, oh, I think you need to see this book before I do. So I've got the book.
Could literally talk to you about this stuff all day.
I'm sure we'll talk about it again.
Despite her protests, I do believe Isobel Campbell is a witch. She just doesn't know it yet, but she'll get there. There was so much wisdom in this interview, talking about the reasons why she left Belle and Sebastian, following your intuition, being authentic and not being afraid to go off and do what you do believe your purpose actually is. Some amazing nuggets of wisdom on body image and the idea that we're all perfectly imperfect. So let's stop trying to be these idealised people that are constantly shown to us in the media. I think this is so important for everyone, and particularly for young people at the moment. Her grief at the loss of the amazing Mark Lanegan was palpable, and I really hope that she's able to work through that and remember him fondly. This podcast has been hosted and produced by me, Karlyn King, with music from the Caledonias. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Songs Podcast and TikTok at Songs. Watch out for Tarot Friday every Friday on our socials. And remember, you can join our Patreon community for your spiritual glow up. See you next week.